I do have fun with a lot of this stuff. There's a gal over in Africa that runs a channel called Wake Up Africa. She's most definitely a spiritual warrior. That's my translation of her communication using the English language. Okay? And that's because the nature of all the subjects that she addresses about acknowledging that you're on a spiritual battlefield. Spirit is an energy. So, therefore, if you're in a spiritual battlefield, you're in an energy war, which is an electrical war. So I don't always respond to things that other spiritual warriors because of what they're aware of and the level that they operate at. Operator, like an operator, dial 0 for 0 ohms. But she was talking this morning about the title of her video on YouTube was Mind Your Energy, Mind Your Own Business. So I remember when I was growing up as a child, for example, mind your own business, right? And this, it's like, how do I put this? That's sort of hard to do when you realize already you're a camera eye. You're already surveilling. You know what a surveyor is, right? When NASA lost a surveyor, what is a surveyor? A scout. You're scouting the terrain, much like if you saw in Terminator, when Terminator, a machine, basically an android, lands, and then you see his eyeballs scanning, and he's running data. So he's running visual data information through his holographic processor, through a supercomputer, which is his calculus, right? So now we're back into polarity. So um, she was talking about essentially protecting your energy, which she was addressing it specifically what we call electronic thought patterns. And I've covered this because of experiencing this. So what I do is I share what I've experienced with others. But I'm fully acknowledging that what others choose to do with the information that they experience through me that I communicate it with is not up to me. It's up to those that experience what I communicate, how they translate that information. It's not up to me. So now I'm back to my childhood when they brought the first TV in to the house. And I immediately recognized that the antenna, which used to be called rabbit ears, these were vacuum tube TV sets, by the way. Vacuum tubes. Tube rides, like flying in a jet in a commercial, that's called an aluminum tube ride. Going horizontal and vertical, right? With a gyroscope. And so I'm reminded by that TV is trying to program me. That's what I told my parents, that TV is trying to program me. And the simple translation in that is you're a magnetic recorder. I don't want to record that program into my memory, which means I'm experiencing on that TV set the communication, the presentation. It's presenting to me something that represents who they are, not who we are. Because you realize, because you're translating what that represents, because you realize you're on a spiritual battlefield. Okay, so you know who the enemy is and why they do the programming that they do, because it's related to future proofs past, which has to do with control. So mass media presentations in this case is all about controlling what gets programmed into your RAM, which is read active memory. So I mentioned to her in a comment this morning, and this is true with a lot of other posts that come up on my timeline, okay, is the fact that even though I had a lot of fun here, and I still have fun every day, I'm having fun right now. That's the idea, right? To enjoy yourself, having fun, being in a state of love and joy, and at the same time being in a state of peace. Which means I'm not at war with my mirror. There isn't anything in my mirror that I'm at war with. I'm in a state of peace in my own heart and soul, right? But I realize as a polarity integrator, I'm experiencing, if you will, a lot of frequencies or consciousness that I become aware of by the radio sets or operating systems that their soul or whoever the operator is, like a drone, right? I'm not an NPC, just part of the game board. right? What we used to call fill-ins, or what Hollywood would consider, when in the early days of the early silent movies, they used to have cast. You know what casting spell is, and what spelling is with letters, the sound of letters. Okay, is they would say cast of characters. And in the nomenclature of computer science, a keyboard is a character map. Okay, based on letters, notes, musical keyboards, right? Just like a keyboard that's got an electronic synthesizer and an amplifier with a big ass magnet. So when she was talking about mind your own energy, she was talking about how essentially protecting your shield, which is protecting your energy, because you're in a field of consciousness that is experiencing itself, that you become aware of with your antenna, which is a receptor, and how your radio set is going to translate and thus react or respond to that. So now we're down to reaction states within a central neuroion system of messengers, which are signals intelligence between antennas, because a living cell is an antenna, a receptor, and an effector, which means now that it's received the signal, how is it going to react to that incoming signal's intelligence? Just like the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, or just like the United States Army Signal Corps? Core, COR, core, like their core cameras, core 1 and core 2. Now you're into the letter C, ABC, 3 trinary, and motherboards. So you realize you're operating on a motherboard with capacitors, resistors, and all the rest of it, right? Circuits that are opening and closing. So now you're into the speed of those circuits opening and closing, that's based on the translations of the frequencies and vibration of what we're experiencing. So you know that a polarity integrator is essentially clearing all the distorted waves, because you realize the distortions represent what? Distortions in the water worlds. So the waves are not in harmony. So the waves are communicating with each other. So that's a resonant field of consciousness. So you realize, my God, there's a lot of radio sets around here. So I used to say that these were like antenna wars, which are frequency wars, which are electrical wars between different radio sets, or if you will, seeded races that do not like each other, right? So now you get into realizing, hell, we're in Star Wars, aren't we? Yeah. So that's the nature of the battleground down here, because all you have to do is just examine all the data. And if nothing else, most everybody knows what a chemtrail plane is. Why would they be doing that? They're changing the environment around. It's called terraforming. Terra, right? Changing the manner in which we experience what's being done that is imposing its will on us. They didn't ask our permission. They didn't even ask whether or not we wanted it to have happen. Putting crap up into the sky that thus we're going to breathe in to our system, our operating system, that's meant to do what? Unlawfully convert us, including everything in the planet, because it's going to end up in everything. The water, all the water worlds. So these are major crimes, right? That's why I used to say a long time ago, if there was one single event that is occurring across the planet that most people are aware of, that would be a signal's intelligence of the success that we're having on this planet, of ending the crimes against creation itself, it would be when that stops. Because we have put it up enough times, we give no consent to any unit of consciousness which represents energy imposing its will on something. We do not consent. But they do it anyway. And they're still putting that crap into the skies, huh? So that's why I address this to all the councils. Okay? Because if it would have been up to me, it would have been shut down a long time ago, because it's not like we don't know where those planes are flying out of, how they can be located, how they can be phase locked, and how they can be removed. So now you have to ask, who's giving consent for that to happen to everybody on this planet? So how many counselors do you got to go up the ladder to say what's going on here? Why are you allowing this? Because this is the way that it's perceived. There's only one law, which is love is the law. If a council, whether it's the Syrian Council, whether it's the Arcturian Council, or whether it's an intergalactic council, it's a council of five. When you're giving consent because you become aware of something that's happened that's causing harm, which is against the law of one, which is what love is, that goes on forever, you're participating by giving consent to allowing that to happen because you're not doing anything about it to put a stop to it. That's participation in the crime. And I tell these councils this all the time, and they know that. Okay? Which means I do not approve of their own behavior by giving consent to something that I'm experiencing that is against the law. Right? And we're still experiencing it, aren't we? So this is how you can sort of measure over time, okay? Because this creates, if you will, an anger response. Because now we're back to the level at which we operate. So when you operate on eternal unconditional love, then you realize that everything else is going to be translated against that one metric, no matter who you are, no matter what council you sit on. That's the sad truth of it. And it was actually experiencing that as a result of that, which is why I almost zipped out of here when it was just time to get out of here. Okay, it's like, I'm done with this crap. This is the best we can do, man. I'm gone. Right? So, because it was creating way too much anger. It's feeding itself, but you realize that's exactly what they want to do. They want you to feel the anger because that's a state of that's a reaction state to the input, which is a stimulus of what you become aware of as a lack of when I knew as a child. How long is it going to take us to do this? So that's what it's one of the reasons why I chose to stay, is that I have to see this through. Okay? Which means it's always been, it doesn't matter what happens to this. This is actually about all the others, because when I experience what I'm experiencing and result of what they do, that means that everything else that is in nature that I love and I care about is experiencing the same thing. That's what causes me to cry every day. It's not me. It's what's happening to them. Because they don't have a voice. A dog doesn't have a voice to tell you, stop doing this to me. A tree doesn't have a voice to be able to tell you, stop doing this to me. And that includes everything that's in nature, everything that is a living cell. See, so we speak on behalf of all creation. Okay, which is the evolution of their consciousness, which is an evolution of their heart and soul. So that's how I dump it. I dump these memories because of what I experienced here, that I'm still experiencing here, by being aware of these communications that are informing me of we're still at it. But I also acknowledge that when you think of energy that is incremental, we don't want to burn everybody up either, which is to burn off all our glucose, which is to burn off all those that are committing all these crimes, right? That continue to commit all these crimes. You know, I got sent a little, it's just information that is making me aware of what they're aware of at the time that's being communicated to me. Now I'm aware of what they're aware of, or I'm simply aware of what the communication is telling me, but I have no way to validate it because I'm not there experiencing it directly. It's what we call an indirect communication, right? So it's an indirect communication. It could have been happening. It may not be happening. I don't know. I can't validate it. I'm not there. But I'm simply experiencing what the visual information is informing me of, what that information represents, and how you translate that. Right? And so with that, it was a little article about white hats that had found this facility, a cloning facility, and how it was booby-trapped and all the rest of that. And I'm going, well, good. Okay, so when you already know as a small child that you landed in a place where you have Frankenstein's running Frankenstein's experiment with basically his consciousness that is weaponized because it's not experiencing what love is. So you already know that love has a future, which means that you're going to be using your energy for the benefit of others. But then we realize that when we develop technology for the benefit of others, that can become a weapon used against us, right? Because of the value that that particular technology has and what they can do with it. Because their perception of power is not the same perception of power that we have, which is gifting love. Big difference. And that's a big difference in consciousness and how they use their energy, which is consciousness, to experience what it's aware of in energy as consciousness energy. What do they do with their energy? For what purpose do they use their energy for? So this sort of becomes the field in which you're translating essentially the evolution or the speed at which they're learning, which is back to the mirror, which is magnetic drive, to be an energy giver, which is love and service to others, versus those that are in service to self because of perception of their power. So the accumulation of energy off of others who are ones that are giving it away. So that's the problem here. So who's more powerful? You already know love is more powerful. Love is more powerful magic, right? Love is what grows a flower. Anyway, have a great day. And so thank you very much, Dr. Mami Saraki. I do love you. You're a great warrior of sharing so much great information with family. Family. We're family. We're one with all creation. We give love to. Have a great day.